seems to be the problem?
I want more life, Father.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first inaugural Community Crossover Cup. We are here at Galaxy Esports streaming the match between Nebula Phoenix versus Tokyo Black in this platinum to diamond range 16 team single elimination tournament that we've got going on. I'm your play-by-play this evening, Captain Jack, joined by Comet, representative of Kings Row Saints from Spectrum Canis. How you doing tonight, Comet?
I'm doing wonderful. I just like to thank Galaxy Esports and CCC for giving me the opportunity to cast one of the first games. I'm really looking forward to it.
I know it's going to be a heck of a match for sure. We did have a few technical difficulties here at the beginning, as you know. We all stream and cast and play from our homes, so it's all based on how the Overwatch gods and internet gods want to have us actually do things. But we are ready and raring to go. So, producer Nee, if you can go ahead and let them know that we are ready to start this off. Our first match of the evening going to be on Helios, so which is always a great way to start a match, in my opinion. I feel like control maps really give you kind of an idea of what the teams are in for. Being able to learn on these kind of king of the hill type maps, who's the more aggressive, who's the more passive team, this, that, and the other thing.
Right, and
So
I was actually really interested in the fact that this game, so to speak, is actually going to set the tone for the rest of the cup. Are we going to see a lot of goats? Are we going to see some 2-2-2, which some teams have been preparing for because we know 2-2-2 and Rollock is going to be coming into the game. My team has been practicing a lot of 2-2-2. We've been locked to 2-2-2 in our scrims, so we have to break ourselves out of that mindset, come back into goats, which potentially might be the king of this cup, so to speak. And I'm really curious to see just how much goats we do see, and if the playstyles are gonna work together. Like goats is super aggressive, while 2-2-2 is typically a little bit more passive. Are they going to be able to transition appropriately if they need to?
well, I believe we are not going to see any goats on this map, or I sure as heck hope not, because this is Boop Central, as I like to refer to. Helios Well, going to be the first map that we're going to be seeing our teams on right now as they're continuing to assemble. Go ahead and hit that follow button at the top of your screen to let you know any additional matches coming up for Galaxy Esports. They will be casting a few other matches for the Community Crossover Cup, and you can catch the rest of the matches on a slew of other channels, which we will get to after the half. So let's go ahead and see. Comment, what are you seeing right now coming out for either side?
Honestly, not very surprised here. We're looking at pretty standard bunker, excluding the Genji here for our red team. I'm actually really curious what they're gonna do for that, because blue team offers a lot more shield break, and that might mean that red team's gonna be forced off of the point in this mid fight coming up.
That's true. Nebula Phoenix, or sorry, Tokyo Black Ore touching the objective. Here comes the halt in as the hook ends up getting Naya Kobe very early on from England right there. Oh, but the Ana Natsington ends up getting weakened right there, so it's a 5v5 fight on the objective already, as shields are just going down in either direction. Both teams really trying to hold on as much as possible. Gropenji in the back line trying to get some picks onto the heels if at all possible, but doesn't seem to look like it's going down, as we see both Captain and Wiverblade in the sky. Nessington ends up getting the hook onto Blasta, but Relink ends up following up on Nessington. Gropenji ends up getting Nayakobi in the back line once again, not able to do any damage whatsoever, but it looks like right now Nebula Phoenix looking to try to take control, ends up getting pushed off the objective already. The whole hog coming out, but seems to do more damage than anything, as Wiverblade ends up taking down Relink, and Gropenji getting the triple dash kill right then, securing the objective for Tokyo Black, 6% and climbing.
Both teams are really showing their prowess in practice on this map. It's clear to me, with all the Orisa Hulk hook combos really being initiated of that fight, and the difference maker ultimately for Tokyo Black in that fight. I'm really interested to see how they're going to try and tip the edge in either favor coming up soon.
Well, it looks like they're going ahead and pushing right back in once again. The Hulk seems to be pushed a little bit off as Richie ends up getting the boot kill on the Sweaty Brawls. The barrage coming into the backline ends up taking down Blasta from Wiverblade, but Fox following up on that takes them out of the fight. The res comes in for Sweaty Brawls and Nyakobi able to get the kill on to Richidu, but that's going to be a regroup for the side of Nebula Phoenix, 45% and climbing for Tokyo Black.
No Orisa for either team. It's actually really hard to push on at this point without the Orisa there because of the threat of the Hog, as well as the Lucio, and potentially the backline Genji put on your team.
Oh, well, here comes the blade from Grobenji, as well as the, oh goodness, Nano Blade coming out from Grobenji, ends up getting the double onto Sweaty Brawls and Captain in the backline. Wiverblade swapping over to the Doomfist, gets a double of their own, but Grobenji ends up getting them Spike Mecha, going for the hard reset just to be able to group up with the team quickly. 78% and climbing for Tokyo Black.
This is actually pretty dominant. You think that in a bunker comp, the team with more damage would actually be the one that comes out on top of these mid fights. But the lack of focus because of the Genji in the backline that's splitting the Nebula Phoenix's attention is really doing them a large disservice.
And that Sleep Dart Ore going on to Nessington, going to keep them out of the battle for just a moment. Bongos getting bopped down from Blast as the Meteor Strike comes in from Wiverblade. Doesn't manage to get much of anything as Relink gets the hook and shot onto Wiverblade after taking out Tweakin rather. Nyakobi following up on Grobenji in the backline. That might be exactly what they need. High Noon coming out for Nyakobi. Doesn't seem to get much of anything, but Captain able to get the boop onto Relink. Spike Mecha following up on Blasta, and that is finally a control point captured for Nebula Phoenix, 5% and climbing to the 99% for Tokyo Black.
It's funny. Nebula Phoenix might be taking a note out of Tokyo Black's playbook because now they have the flanker on their team, just joining the enemy team's focus fire.
Woo!
And there goes the whole team.
And there it goes. Flanker taking out the flankers. Wiverblade takes down Grobenji in the back line. Nessington able to follow up on Blaster right there, and that's going to be a shutdown of that push for right now. 30% and climbing for Nebula Phoenix.
Right, and just as I said earlier, they can't do anything as soon as the Orisa goes down, and with her dying with a halt hook, that's essentially 10 to 14% that they built for themselves by getting that.
That is absolutely huge. Wiverblade charging up already in the backline as the beat drop, and Blade come out. Anti-nade coming out from Sweaty Brawls, though, in return, as Relink ends up taking down Spike Mecha with the whole hog. Fox following up on Captain as Richie gets the boop on Nessington. Wiverblade, though, in the backline getting the double kill. Fox able to get him with the stun right there, but Fox ends up taking down Nyakobi with the Deadeye. The Sleep Dart comes in onto Blasta, but it's not going to be enough. The boot coming in from Captain on the sleeping Orisa ends up giving them the possibility of holding on. Spike Mecha coming back in as the Hammond to try to get some speed onto the objective. Nyakobi swapping over to the Tracer, just working on that backline, trying to see if they can keep them in the fight right now. Wiverblade coming in for the punch, ends up taking Tweakin right out of the fight. 99% still ticking away into overtime right now for Tokyo Black. Can Nebula Phoenix swap it back over into their favor as Nessington gets the kill onto Relink? Overtime continuing to tick away as Captain trying to boop off as many from the objective so they can no! Objective secured 100% to 59. Everyone just happened to step off the point just a little too at the same time. Overtime ticked away very quickly, and Tokyo Black will take away Ilios well.
And that's why we run Orisa Hog on that map specifically, is because if you do decide to run something like Dive, you don't have the lasting potential on point. And what happened was Blasta came out of spawn after dying first in that fight by getting booped off by the Lucio. But he went straight to point, put down a shield, and essentially just stood there for the remainder of that entire point. And as Orisa is, she's really hard to dislodge when she's able to set up like that.
That is incredibly correct. Let's go ahead and see now what our teams are going to be coming out with. It looks like we have still the Orisa Hog, but with a double sniper comp coming out for the side of Tokyo Black. For the side of Nebula Phoenix, though, they're going for the dive composition. So let's see which one ends up working out.
Right, the sightlines on this map are not very good, although albeit they are very long, so they do lend their hand to the snipers on the red team.
Well,
But
Fox Ore
typically-
getting the pick right there onto
huge.
Wiverblade, but the return coming in from Nyakobi takes Fox out of the fight as Captain taking down Blasta in return as well. Nyakobi just getting pick after pick right now as Nebula Phoenix takes control of the point, 10% and climbing.
We have played against Nebula Phoenix and scrimmed against them in the past, and every single time we play against them, it seems like we always have trouble with this Nyakobi DPS. His hit scan is very, very good, and you got to be very careful when he's on the Widow, because if he's not contested, then he can completely open up a point for this blue team.
Nope, I completely agree with you there. In Season 2, I cannot tell you how many Nyakobi headshots I saw coming out every time here on Ilios Ruins. Punch coming in from Wiverblade as Nyakobi getting a pick. Once again, that's an oof battle for the ages going on right now. Gropenji coming in as the Doomfist as well ends up taking down Wiverblade as the Nano goes in onto Spike Mecha. Here comes the Primal after the Nano finishes, looking to do some damage there in the backline, or at least keep them off the objective as Sweaty Brawls ends up taking down Blasta and Richie Do. Look at this on a go right now as Relink able to take down Spike Mecha with the punch. Diva Bomb going into the backline, no shield, but doesn't end up getting much of anything, but does keep them off the point, 60% and climbing for Nebula Phoenix.
If you're going to be running Widow versus Widow on this map, it is absolutely essential that you win these duels or at least give your Widow a fighting chance. And what's happening here is that while Tokyo Black is running or was running Bunker, they were struggling to keep their Widow alive despite having the shield as well as the hog and all that pressure. Nyakobi essentially just running over the other Widow and forcing them into a position where they can't take a fight.
Well, it looks like right now there's Fox swapping over to the Tracer as well as a dive composition altogether. The Nano coming in onto Blasta ends up taking down Sweaty Brawls, but the double kill coming in from Nessington and Captain gonna turn the tide into their favor as Wiverblade comes down with the Meteor Drop, bringing in Blasta to the edge as Wiverblade with the double kill right there, taking down Tweakin and Fox. That's 100% to 0 for Nebula Phoenix, tying it up 1-1 in the series here on Ilios.
Like I said at the beginning of that map, you know, you typically won't see a lot of bunker because it's hard to set up once you get on the point in that map. There's so much high ground around you that you can hardly contest. And the sight lines are really good for sniper characters. So the Widow is essentially just able to shoot you for absolutely no danger to her own, you know, self-being. And so Widow was essentially able to lock down this bunker comp completely by herself. I mean, of course, assisted by the rest of her team. But I think the call to swap to dive just came a little bit too late after, Nebula Phoenix already had built up a generous ult economy advantage.
I completely agree there. Looks like we got a basic 2-2-2 coming out this time for Nebula Phoenix with Spike Mecha and Essington coming out on the Rhine. Zarya, Nyakobi swapping over to the Ash with Wiverblade still sticking on to that Doomfist.
Oh my goodness.
Ore getting taken down early by the Far Mercy coming out. Nyakobi able to pick up Gropenji and the beginning of that fight as well. So it's a 5v5 fight moving into the objective. Nebula Phoenix going to be the first ones to touch as the control point getting ready to unlock. It looks like Fox coming in as the Soldier 76 for this fight, looking to get some tac visor kills. The burn coming in from that dynamite ends up taking down Richadu as Spike Mecha following up onto Blasta, the other Ryan. Wiverblade getting the uppercut onto Tweakin, and that's going to be an objective capture and climb for the side of Nebula Phoenix.
Nyakobi getting an immediate headshot body shot onto the Gropenji as he was getting a little bit too aggressive on that mid fight, and essentially they were able to turn the tide on that fight completely just due to that pick. That the player advantage is so crucial in this game. I think at some point here, Tokyo Black's gonna need to do something to target counter or maybe focus fire a little bit harder on Nyakobi so he can't get these free shots on the enemy team. And running Farah Mercy into this hit scan player that has proven himself to be deadly might be not the best call.
Nope, I completely agree there. The dynamite coming in from Nyakobi allows Spike Mecha to take down Blasta as Nyakobi again with the headshot body shot taking down Gropenji ends up pushing into their backline, looking to see if they can get some additional damage going on. Nessington following up on Richadu as the percentage climb continues for Nebula Phoenix, 57% and climbing.
Wonderful awareness by Nebula Phoenix there, pushing all the way into the opposing team's spawn, knowing that they had player advantage, knowing that was a fairly safe push. And what that did is that actually afforded them a little bit extra time on the point. It's not going to end up making a lot of difference, but if you do that every single time, you get a slight advantage on the opposing team, then it's going to start to add up as the game progresses. And you see them already at 75%. They've only won 2 fights, and they're almost done and sealed this point.
Yep, Grobenji swapping over to the Genji. Here comes the Nano Tac Visor coming out onto Fox right there. As we see the Nano also coming out onto Spike Mecha. The Shatter ends up missing for the side, for Blaster right there as Nyakobi using the Dynamite to take down Tweakin. Wiverblade with the uppercut on Blaster right there. Spike Mecha tackles Grobenji. And again, 100-0. It almost seems like, well, just happens to not be Nebula Phoenix's strong suit right there. But they're showing their dominance already in this tournament. 100-0 twice in a row. And taking the first map, Ilios, in favor of Nebula Phoenix, making the series 1-0 here in the Community Crossover Cup.
Right. If anything, it's clear to me that they were not prepared for this Tokyo Black's Genji pick on that first map. I think that was really the difference maker during all those mid fights. The thing that it was eventually able to stop the stalemate between the Orisa and Hogs was that Genji disjoining focus, forcing the Roadhog to turn around, and so he's not putting damage on their shield. All that eventually culminated into them taking the point. I think they maybe need to work on dealing with that better in the future. But as for the other points, it was like clockwork. Nebula Phoenix was able to do exactly what they wanted to do, exactly how they wanted to do it. They clearly were not forced into doing or playing or making bad plays. They left that last point. They ended it with Bob, Shatter, as well as a defensive ult from Lucio, still available after the last fight. And that just goes to show all of the dominance that they showed on those last 2 points. On paper, you would think that these teams are fairly even. Nebula Phoenix 29.05 average, Tokyo Black 29.26. On paper they should be winning if we're going by the SR here.
Yeah, but as we know with how close in SR they are, I know at least for myself as a mid-platinum player, sometimes you just come up against those that it's a certain kind of je ne sais quoi, if you will. Nebula Phoenix just didn't have the jive there in the first map, but was able to get their act together for maps 2 and 3 on Ilios, and just really show how well they're going to at least start outshining Tokyo Black. So I hope Tokyo is taking the time right now to figure out how they're going to contest them going into Hollywood. It's going to be our hybrid map.
I'm really interested to see how they deal with Nyakobi, because he essentially went for those last 2 points uncontested, essentially. And they can't let this happen for the remainder of the game. So I'm interested to see how they change it up. Will they take a D.Va player for the hit scan possibility when they're running bunker? What are they going to do exactly here? I don't know. But good coaching will tell them that they as a coach here, I want my team optimally, whenever they do run into something that's giving them issues, or a specific player that's causing them problems, to be able to adapt to it. And that's what you'll find in the best Overwatch teams, is those that are able to adapt. And so I'm hoping that Tokyo Black is able to see and identify the problems that cause them to go from basically essentially going even on that first map to being completely rolled on the second 2 points, and be able to stomp them out and get them done quick.
Yep. As a motto that I've had for a lot of my life, I use the term Semper Gumby, which is a combination of obviously Semper Fi from the Marines and Gumby, which for those of you that are totally very young and not old enough to know what it is, it's like an 80s children's cartoon. But he was a very flexible character, so being always flexible is something not only in Overwatch, but in life is something that I tend to always live by. But as you said, that pretty much sums up everything that we're hoping to see from Tokyo Black. What do you see them coming out with right now?
Well, this looks like a fairly standard dive. I'm curious how they think they're going to apply Sombra. A lot of teams like to use Bunker on the cafe area, but it's so close quarters with Sombra. Sometimes it's hard to get the angle on the hack to get, you know, some of the crucial characters like the Hog as well as the Orisa. So I'm interested to see how exactly they're planning on playing this angle and attacking it.
All right, well, they already
We're already
dove
seeing a
onto
straight
the
dive,
high ground,
yeah.
starting the action off quick, but Wibberblade on that Torbjorn, which is not a pick that I was necessarily thinking I was going to see here, as Ore taking down Blast and Nyakobi following up on Fox in their back line right there, as Gropenji getting some dashes in there, not able to finalize the kill, but does have quite a big blast. Oh, that hook coming in onto Relink there on the Diva, ends up taking them out thanks to Captain on their Zen. Fox going again into their back line, looking to see if they can take Nyakobi out of the equation. Maybe that's their, maybe that's what they're going for, either to take down the healing or just get Nyakobi out of the fact. The sleep dart comes in. Whoa! Did you see how quickly they turned around for that one? Woo!
It's good communication.
Oh man, that was like 180 in 0.05 seconds, and that dive not being coordinated from Tokyo Black right there, as Kirk getting the anti-nade kill onto Blasta. Gonna go ahead and shut down that push before it even began. Wibberblade using the turret to take down Gropenji.
I'd like to point out,
yep.
Messington's actually taking a lot of space. After they get these initial picks on dive, they know that dive is not strong unless they're grouped up doing dives together. And once they get those initial picks, like say if they make a bad dive like what just happened, Nessington has been continuously pushing up with his teammates and getting more picks on top of it, which is by itself doing a lot in terms of swinging time into their favor, as the other team just waits on respawns.
Oh, this might be a tide turner that we didn't expect. A pause Ore being asked for here in the map. It looks like we have some technical issues going on, but okay. Thankfully, it was just a mouse not moving.
That might be a bad sign.
A DC would have been really bad at this point. Not to say that ultimates are sparse right now for either side, as Fox, Tweakin, and Gropenji coming up on their ultimates with most, if not all, of
here comes the EMP.
Oh, there it comes. The action coming in. The EMP comes down. Ends up getting 3. The Molten Core goes down from Wibberblade. Ends up getting 2. Looking to shut it down as the Transcendence comes out from Captain, as well as the Bongos. I think they might have used too many right there, because honestly, I think the Molten Core really was enough right there to kind of shut down that entire push that had come in from the side of Tokyo Black. And it looks like they're going to swap over Gropenji coming in on the Junkrat and Fox coming in on the McCree. 1 minute, 15 seconds on the clock.
Right, if I'm Nebula Phoenix, I'm ecstatic with that last fight. Sombra went in and EMP'd their Zenyatta as well as half of their team, and the Zenyatta was able to get the solo kill on the Sombra before the Sombra was able to kill the Zenyatta, which is absolutely crucial. Enabled him to use his Transcendence halfway through that fight, turning it even more. This is exactly what they wanted, and the win conditions down for Tokyo Black right now, so they're in the spot where they have to come up huge here in the next minute or so. They probably have one fight action. This next fight, they have to come up absolutely huge with little to no ult economy available.
They might be able to pull it off right here. It looks like for the side of Nebula Phoenix, they do have the Nano, Whole Hog, and the High Noon available. And as we know, Nyakobi is big on that. Here comes the high nanoed Whole Hog right now, going into the Primal as the Diva Bomb goes down, ends up taking down Spike Mecha. Gropenji following up on Kirk. His Captain follows up on Gropenji in return. Relink and Fox end up taking down Nyakobi and Captain, as Tweakin ends up getting the anti-nade on Denessington, and at the 5-second mark, we will see them take Objective Alpha and start pushing the payload into area number 2.
Tokyo Black absolutely needed that, and they really needed Blasta to go up huge there. And what ended up happening is he used his what is it, the rage? He used his primal rage, and he was essentially just a bullet sponge for 2 ults on the opposing team, while the rest of his team took a lot of space, did a lot of damage, and were able to eventually break the bunker. Now, if I'm on Nebula Phoenix, I should start to get pretty worried, because Oh, well, they're actually swapping off Dive. They could have gone high ground with Dive and essentially claimed the area above them, forcing them to back up. But now that they're on 2-2-2, I'm curious to see what their game plan is.
Woo, well, right now it's going to be a big old molten core as Gropenji takes down Wiverblade. Here comes the tire, ends up taking down Captain in the backline as Wiverblade takes down Fox mid-high noon with the molten core right there. Nessington following up onto Relink as Kirk gets the anti-nade onto Gropenji on that high ground even. But despite it being pretty even between the teams, the payload continues to move forward for the side of Tokyo Black.
We got a Widow swap coming in from Nebula Phoenix, and there we go, just as I said it. Kirk going down. This is a huge pick on the side of Tokyo Black. And this is exactly what they needed. This is going to buy them a lot of time unless they... Oh,
well, unless they get pushed back by a big old whole hog.
But again, it's kind of just delay the inevitable. Unless Nyakobi is just going huge here, they still have the shield available as well as 4 characters. Oh my goodness.
Wiverblade coming in on Blasta right there.
Ignore everything I say. They're just the DPS on Nebula Phoenix.
Apparently, they just have an idea how it's going down, especially with these close quarter battles. You don't want that payload to move out of that area for that Doomfist pick. And we saw Wiverblade on Elios. That is going to be absolutely huge right here. So not only will they have to shut down Nyakobi, who already has the high noon amongst 3 other ultimates from the team. Relink getting the pick onto Wiverblade there in the back. As they go ahead and push in, the bongos go down for Spike Mecha to start things off as the beat drop follows for Richie High noon coming out from Nyakobi in the back line, takes down Gropenji as Nessington follows up onto Relink for that Zarya. So no Graviton going to be coming out right there. Blasta does have the shield shatter ready and available, but it goes straight into the shield. Doesn't do much of anything. Able to get the tackle onto Captain as Nessington, Wiverblade, and Captain picking off the rest of the team right now. Overtime going to tick away, and we're going to see a very rare second point hold here on Hollywood.
Really, as the offense team, you want to utilize your strengths as best as you can. And one of the things that they could have utilized a little bit better is the high ground there. They know that the other team really wants, with the Doomfist pick as well as with the McCree pick, they really want to be on the low ground in those tight corner scenarios where they can abuse all these really high damage mechanics. And what ended up happening is I feel like Tokyo Black kind of just ran into them each time and got abused by the stuns from the excessive stuns from both of the DPS. As well as when they did swap Widow, the McCree took high ground and was able to win that duel, which was essentially, the linchpin that made Nebula Phoenix be able to push back Tokyo Black's offense. Not having that Widow up on high ground is really, really bad, because then the Orisa Hog only have to look at one spot, and that's right in front of them where everyone else is coming from. And they're ready for that with the Doomfist pick as well. So they were completely prepared and ready for what Nebula Phoenix was throwing at them, or Tokyo Black was throwing at them.
Yep.
And I feel like
go ahead.
Right, and I just feel like they weren't really sweating there. As a player, I could probably see that Blasta as a main tank sitting in those really tight corner areas, sitting right in front of point as Orisa. This is what you want to see as an Orisa player. You don't want to see someone behind you flanking or a Widowmaker on high ground. You want to see people running straight at you, so you can get those halt hooks, so you can get all that extra damage. We have dive coming in from Nebula Phoenix on offense, essentially almost a mirror of what we saw Tokyo Black do to Nebula Phoenix here just last point.
The question is, will they be able to dislodge the bunker a little bit better with Wiverblade on that Doomfist? That's pretty much the only... Well, no, we see Nyakobi on the Ashe as well. Spike Mecha getting taken down incredibly low with Fox on the Ashe as well. Ends up allowing Relink to get the pick onto Wiverblade there in the backline. As we see Spike Mecha, Kirk, and Captain currently on the objective, and I'm not for certain why they're continuing to push, whether they're just kind of trying to distract in all directions, which is best for dive. Captain getting the double kill there between Relink and Richadu as Wiverblade gets the punch onto Fox, and wow.
I really like the commitment.
I was just having a hard time as a caster, just trying to pay attention to everything that was going on in so many directions, and I
Right.
believe that that's what Nebula Phoenix was going for.
Weaver died really, really early on in that fight, and that could have spelt danger for the rest of his team, but they stayed to their plan. They stuck to their guns, and they executed a dive. That's exactly what they needed. And even if they hard wiped on point and had to hard reset, they know that as the more agile, more faster team, they can reinforce much more quickly than the defense can. That's why you saw the healers as well as the DPS eventually collapse on point there. And eventually, the DPS, the damage, the spread out nature of the comp, it was just too much for Tokyo Black's tanks to deal with.
And they're pushing in once again. Fox getting the DMAC and Dynamite kill onto Nessington as Relink gets the hook onto Kirk. So it's a 4v6 fight right now on the objective. Make that 3v6 as Gropenji follows up onto Nyakobi right there. 4 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock, though. They've got plenty of time to go ahead and regroup and see if they can change the tide as Wiverblade swapping over to the Hanzo, seeing if this double sniper comp with the dive might be able to help that out.
This is what I was talking about. As dive is incredibly hard to deal with on this point when you're doing something stagnant like a Orisa Hawk.
Oh boy, it's the power of the Q right now as we see the Nano Spike Mecha going into the backline. Bob coming out from both Nyakobi and Fox right there, but Kirk ends up following up on Blasta. It looks like Nessington gonna get DMAC'd by the Molten Core of Gropenji, but it's not gonna be enough as Wiverblade follows up on Relink and Nessington taking down Tweak, and the payload moving fervently forward right now with 3 minutes, 45 seconds on the clock, and essentially only one fight stopping them. Fox ends up getting the pick onto Wiverblade right there as the bongos coming out for Blasta, as well as the Valkyrie being popped by Richadu, trying to hold on as much as possible. They end up getting the DMAC onto Nessington and the kill as Richadu follows up on Kirk with the punch in the Valk, and that's going to go ahead and shut down the push 0.61 meters from its final resting spot. 3 minutes, 20 seconds on the clock.
Despite that, as Nebula Phoenix, I would still be very, very happy with the outcome of that last fight. They're putting themselves in the
absolutely.
situation where all of the big essential ults for the defense here are not available, as well as they have this entire high ground to play around. And I'd like to just give props to the tank duo, Nessington as well as Spike Mecha, for playing high ground so efficiently on this point. They're doing a wonderful job, like I mentioned, disjoining Tokyo Black's focus. You see Monkey diving in from high ground here.
There
Constantly
goes.
just... There we go.
And
Doofus
Nessington
in
comes in with the Diva Bomb, looking to go some damage. Ends up taking the shield down, but separates out the teams so that they can get Blasta out of the picture. Nyakobi coming back in as the Widow. Double kill right now on the objective as the Molten Core coming down from Gropenji, but it may not be enough. Or actually, it is enough.
It is,
It looks
yes.
like. Oh, that did not turn out the way that I thought it was going right there. Fox ends up getting the pick on the Nyakobi on the high ground with 2 minutes, 15 seconds on the clock. I'd be questioning myself a little bit as Nebula Phoenix trying to figure out how they're going to get past this composition.
Gropenji's Molten Core was absolutely essential there to stop that offense. The offense needed to get on point in order to get the cart forward, but as he ulted, he covered the entire point with his sludge or with his whatever it is. I don't even know. I guess molten iron or whatever.
Yep.
And so the enemy team found themselves between a rock and a hard place. Do they want to complete the objective or did they want to retreat? And it seems like half of them got different ideas and the other half decided to stick on point and take the damage. Didn't end up helping them in the end.
Yep, it's definitely a difficult choice to make right there, but it looks like Nyakobi using the sights in the backline as Wiverblade moving over to the high ground. It looks like they're looking to get the picks in the backline as the Transcendence comes out from Tweakin just to try to prevent themselves from being taken out. We're going to see Fox end up getting the DMAC onto Nessington as Relink ends up taking down Weaverblade after the Meteor Strike right there. The Nano comes out after the Primal, but it's not going to be enough as Gropenji using the Molten Core to take down Nessington and Blasta taking down Spike Mecha. 1 minute left on the clock, and I got to say, as quickly as it was looking that Nebula Phoenix was going to take this map, I'm not so sure anymore.
They're making good macro calls. I mean, overall, the last play was a very sound one. They knew that the Zenyatta had Transcendence available. They knew that they needed to force it out in order to secure a win. The problem is they had to run past the entirety of Tokyo Black Squad to get there. That was not what they wanted.
the positioning there by Tweakin was very, very good. He forced them all into that choke point, that doorway where they just were able to lay into them on their way
Oh,
in.
the boop up. Ends up getting him, but Blasta follows up onto Nessington right there with the hook. The sleep dart comes in, interrupting the whole hog right there as Blasta ends up taking down Nyakobi. We got the Far Mercy now
Eyes
coming
on
out
Weaver.
for
He's
Witherblade
doing a lot
and
here. He has his
Captain
ult.
right now trying to get that barrage. Already has that
He already
barrage
has
up.
it, yeah.
Oh my goodness, and that might be
Here we go.
exactly what they need. 2, 1, barrage coming out as Captain able to touch point long enough. Wiver taking down Blasta, but Tweakin getting the double kill onto Wiver, and Captain, the Death Blossom, comes out distracting Nessington, the only one touching point right now. Overtime ticking away, and I do not think Nebula Phoenix will be able to get back. Tokyo Black tying up the series before the half here on Hollywood, making it 1-1 in their first matchup here at the Community Crossover Cup. Wiverblade on the Torbjorn for play of the game. It's going to be that beautiful Molten Core that just all over the place. Molten Core, turret, rivet gun, like it's all good. It's
One
all
of the
good right
best
there.
things about Molten Core, especially against Dive, which is the difference when if they were to be running something like Bastion, when they have Molten Core available, they have that huge area denial. And what Dive really is best at is taking large grounds of area and utilizing these high grounds, utilizing all that area to get picks on the opposing team. And when that area is denied because of this high damage, molten iron that's on the floor, it makes it really, really hard to make a cohesive offense against this team. And that's what we found, is that even though the plays overall were strategically very sound, I would say, they were trying to get them off point on that first offense, as well as they tried to force the ults from the Zenyatta, knowing that they had it. The problem was the execution on this, Torb, Orisa, Hog composition was, they were very aware of what their opponents wanted to accomplish, and they were very apt at delaying what they wanted to do, as well as stopping it altogether in some certain situations.
That was absolutely huge from the side of Tokyo Black, being able to bring it back from what looked like was going to be the jaws of defeat right there. As we go into the halftime, be sure to stay tuned for the second half to see if Nebula Phoenix or Tokyo Black will be advancing into the quarterfinals of the Community Crossover Cup. Stay tuned. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the inaugural Community Crossover Cup. I'm Captain Jack, your play-by-play, joined by Comet of Spectrum Canis here this evening. How was your break there, Comet?
Pretty good, actually. I had to spend a little time mulling over just exactly what happened in the last two games because, boy, was that last one a nail biter, and actually kind of an upset to me personally. I really expected Nebula Phoenix, based on the way that they defended, to come up on top there.
Well, that's the thing is defense and attack are two different sides of the same coin,
True.
and sometimes one's a little bit more blacker and rough around the edges on one side than on the other side. And it's not to say that Nebula Phoenix was doing a bad job. They were doing incredible on the dive. It was that last dive, that very last one to push it in that little bit to get there. There just could not get past the defense that ended up coming out from Tokyo Black. And now we're going to see if they can do the same thing that they did on Ilios on our 2CP map for the evening, Hanamura.
Hanamura, notoriously bad for goats because of all the super big high grounds here on the last point. Very good on the first one, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of goats here, especially on offense. There may be some on defense, but looks like both teams seem fairly comfortable on Orisa Hog. So and just as I say that, it looks like some of the teams are showing Orisa Hog. Not sure if that's finalized yet, but so I'm not too surprised.
So I just want to put out there, folks, this tournament is not 2-2-2 locked. I think the reason that we're seeing a lot of these 2-2-2 compositions is because our teams are preparing for the 2-2-2 lock that is coming out in just about every other tournament that's going to be going on in the near future. So it's definitely an interesting sight to see this change in the meta, but it's not too different because Wiverblade coming out on that May, like even when we had goats, normally you'd see the Snoats composition for the defense because you only got that one choke unless you're running straight dive or what I thought I saw coming out from Tokyo side, that Symmetra turret. You're not gonna really be getting past that choke anytime soon.
Nebula Phoenix actually taking a note from Overwatch League.
First pick on to tweaking just a little bit out of position there by Nessington. Ends up getting him, but the fire burning all over Nessington right now thanks to Fox. Gonna get that ult charge up pretty quickly.
Their composition is really dependent on the Widowmaker here, so we need to see Nyakobi going huge because the lack of damage from another DPS, which they basically went without in order to have walls available for the team. Nyakobi needs to go absolutely huge and do a ton of work, which I think they're very confident in his abilities in Widow. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trying something like this.
Well, I gotta say, it's pretty impressive that Captain already, with the Nano available, Relink ends up taking down Nessington at the start of that fight, but the wall going up is going to prevent them from continuing to move forward. The Hulk going up. Here comes the hook. Ends up getting Spike Mecha as well. That wall ain't going to stop much of anything, as it is already a 4v6 fight moving into, or 4v6 fight moving into the objective right now. Nebula Phoenix really got to get those picks. Nyakobi ends up taking down Fox in the black line as we see the Nano going on to Wiverblade, getting that frosty coming in, but it's not going to really do a whole lot of damage. The wall does come up to try to separate them, just playing Distractime on the point as much as possible. Sleep Dart comes in, but the freeze looking to try to take Relink out of the picture. Nessington back in, able to follow up on that and take down Blasta as well. I don't know how Nebula Phoenix was able to hold that off. Definitely a great deal of communication right there, but they were, despite not having either of their tanks on the objective, we're still able to hold on, and Nyakobi going to pick off Fox at the beginning of that fight real quickly. 1 minute, 50 seconds on the clock.
The execution of that play was absolutely brilliant. It started off really good for Tokyo Black, securing both of the main tank kills onto Nebula Phoenix, and this is essentially a fight over and done with. It should be. But because of the May and Weaver Blade, he was actually able to stall them for long enough to able to create a bunch of openings for Nyakobi, as well as himself with his walls. I believe he got Grapenji when he got a little bit too aggressive. These were
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the hook, line, and a sinker between the eyes. Nyakobi gets the double kill on Blasta and Fox right now. Honestly, I'm really surprised that Fox took up the Widow once again, because as we saw on Elios, that was not working out very well for them. You would think that they would go more dive-centric to try to take care of Nyakobi this time around.
Right, the comment that I said earlier about relying really heavily on the Widow, yeah, I kind of take that one back. I know that they can rely heavily on him.
Yeah, what were
He's
you
coming
thinking?
in huge.
Oh, here comes the blizzard. And that's going to be a cleanup right there for the side of Nebula Phoenix. Going to be a first point hold for the most part. 30 seconds remaining on the clock as Kirk gets the pick onto Gropenji. And Gropenji taking down Kirk as well with that arrow in return. So right now we are seeing 3 ultimates online for the side of Nebula Phoenix, 2 online for the side of Tokyo Black, and they're coming in now with the Symmetra, looking to see if they can teleport straight to point, but I think Nebula Phoenix is ready. And they are totally ready for that. No teleporter coming in now as the bongos getting placed outside the shield. Going to get taken down quickly by Wyverblade as Nyakobi ends up getting a headshot on the Blasta. Captain following up on Relink, and without even sweat right there, Nebula Phoenix is going to hold a complete first point hold on Objective Alpha against Tokyo Black.
It seems like Tokyo Black was not very prepared to play against the Mei. They kept running into the Mei. They kept trying to use their Halt Hook, which Halt Hook is the Mei's actually run there to stop Halt Hook from going down on offense. If the Halt Hook were to collect or were to get one of the tanks, then the Mei just walls them off and the hook will break.
Yep.
So they kind of got called out immediately by Nebula Phoenix running this comp, and I feel like they should have known ahead of time that they needed to swap there to make something good. Obviously, they were able to get the picks on the main tanks, but that's too unreliable to have to depend on a Halt Hook that can be countered by the Mei. And they wasted a lot of time and choke just trying to get those Halt Hooks, just trying to secure anything so that they could get some sort of semblance of an offense. And they really only got maybe 1 or 2 fights that entire offense, which is really not what you want to see on an offense. Typically on offense, you want to just keep throwing your bodies in to the defense as much as you can.
Well, we do have a pause on the field right now. Blasta ended up being DC'd for the side of Tokyo Black, which honestly, this is the best time to do it. I always
Yes.
say that in our matches. The best time to DC is in between a match, because you don't want to lose that ultimate and you don't want to lose that presence on point in the middle of the match. So if you had to DC, this was a good time to do it. So what would you recommend to the side of Tokyo Black, if you could, from a coach's perspective, going into this fight? Because it seems like they're going to pull out the Orisa Hog as well for the side of Nebula Phoenix.
Mhm.
But as we know, Nyakobi and Wyverblade are 2 DPS that really need to be dealt with by the way that they've been playing so far this evening.
The biggest thing with Orisa Hog is playing to the strengths of your team composition. You're relying so heavily on this bunker that's created by Orisa. And the fact that you're on defense means that you have a distinct advantage over the offense, Orisa. What I mean by that is you're constantly going to have your shield on the ground. They have to place their shield in the choke. That means they have a 900 shield. You have potentially a 1,800 one, double the shield capacity. So in order for you to stop a defense from something that's like essentially a mirror comp, in order to stop that, you need to play to your strengths, which is winning that shield war and making use out of the shield as best as you can. So what I want to see, I see Grapenji's already on Junkrat. I want to see him focusing the shield as hard as he possibly can while playing in an area that's very, very safe and not, a isolated area where he can get picked by Nyakobi, who's gotten huge on the Widow, or maybe some sort of flanker like a Sombra or Tracer that we might see.
Mm-hmm. I can completely agree with that. So while we're taking the time, it looks like they're restarting right now. Go ahead, hit that follow button at the top of your screen right there. Galaxy Esports is a new-ish tournament that's been coming out. I know that we just recently, as the Rose Cup helped them with their inaugural tournament just a little less than a month ago, and they should be coming up on their next one here. They'll be doing a couple more of our castings during the Community Crossover Cup, which, if you don't know, consists of 8 different organizations submitting their 2 top platinum to diamond teams for this matchup. So it is 16 teams, single elimination. Right now, actually, we're recording this off to the side while the initial inaugural match is going on right now. So feel free to hit that follow. There will definitely be a lot. Every community should be what's it called, hosting the community that is online. So there's going to be a lot more action going on all over the place within the next 3 weeks. And while we continue to wait, I guess what I can do is go ahead and bring up that schedule. So right now, everyone is currently watching Nebula Phoenix versus Tokyo Black. Tomorrow evening, on the Andromeda stream, you'll end up finding Fatso Katso representing the Crusaders versus ADM Singularity representing Andromeda at 8 p.m. At 10 p.m., you will be seeing on the Rose Cups channel, Canis Auroras for Spectrum Canis versus Feels Platman representing the Rose Cup tomorrow evening. Wednesday evening, July 31st, you'll be seeing Burning Blossoms representing the Rose Cup versus Tokyo Red, the other team representing Tokyo in this Community Cup. And Tokyo will be streaming that on their channel, as well as Hanamura Hellhounds at 10 p.m., representing the Onomatopoeia Community Cup. I believe I got that right. Or
That's right.
OCC as they're known as, versus the Choke Pokers. And I have to try not to grin at that.
Yeah.
They're representing the Nano Boost organization
Looks
at
like the
10 p.m.
pause.
that evening. And it looks like we are getting back into the action. So, Comet, what do you see coming out right now for the side of Tokyo Black?
So for Tokyo Black, we're seeing something that's really going to be heavily dependent on the choke. And the reason why I say that is because both of their DPS are maximized and most efficient when they're inside of the choke area. They really want Flashbang to burn tanks. They want the Junkrat to go huge in terms of destroying the shield. So we're going to see a lot of choke play coming out from Tokyo Black. I want to see how Nebula Phoenix tries to adapt to this choke play. Are they going to commit fully on the choke? Are they going to try and go some alternate route by going dive or teleporting to point? We'll see. It's to be determined. Big pick. Oh, that was so close.
That was a close pick there onto Fox, as Nyakobi almost getting taken out as well. Relink ends up getting the pick onto Nessington, getting power boosted with that halt hook combination.
Right.
And that's going to stop that push before it even begins.
This is what I was talking about at the beginning. Fox needs to be in a place where he can't get picked like that. He didn't get picked, but he was very, very close to dying there. That could have been huge for the offense there, because that's suddenly majority of their damage gone.
Absolutely. 3 minutes, 15 seconds on the clock right now as we see the regroup Wiverblade getting picked off in the backline of Tokyo Black for this matchup. And this is going to be interesting because if I'm aware in the rules, there is no ties. So I'm not for certain how this is going to go down if we end up with a 2-2 here going into the second half. But it looks like we see Nebula Phoenix going for the long route to the objective. Tire coming out from Fox as the team tries to split up. Nyakobi ends up getting picked off early as the Coalescence coming out from Kirk, looking to get some picks, if at all possible, or at least support the team. Gropenji coming out with the high noon, ends up getting taken down by Captain as Fox ends up taking down Wiverblade in return. Richidu coming in for the res, but gets followed up on by Spike Mecha. Fox, the only one left on the objective, and my thoughts of the tie happening are then crushed. 2 minutes, 15 seconds on the clock. Nebula Phoenix walks away with the win here on Hanamura, bringing it 2-1 here in the series.
I really like the swap to Moira. Exactly. Just as I was saying, Moira. Moira here is super, super big on these really close choke points. And when they know that their game plan is to get to the point and play around the point as much as possible so they can get out of that choke where the other team excelled, then
avoiding all that together and playing to their own strength was how they're going to edge out the win. And it looked pretty convincing. I don't know about you, but it looked pretty convincing. The wall came down on Orisa. The Reaper as well as the main tanks were able to collapse on it completely, and it looked fairly clean from thereafter and pretty easy, honestly. It's all about playing to your strengths, and I think they shouldn't have let them get through choke so easily. Tokyo Black, that is. They shouldn't have let Nebula Phoenix get through choke so easily.
Yeah, that was something that I was noticing. The shield placement seemed to be a little far back from the choke instead of really trying to hold on to that line. I always say when I'm playing with people in competitive, yeah, if you go past this, piece of wood, there's no chance that I will protect you. That's what I always say.
I
was
like that.
There's no chance that I might be able to protect you right there. If you're behind the wood, I got you. If you're past the wood, then you're on your own. So yeah.
One thing that's not actually stated in the rulebook, but it might be on the unofficial rulebook. Does the winner of the community crossover cup get bragging rights?
Well, of course.
Because this might be another. That might be another, unintended consequence of all this community games is the bragging that might go on between communities and maybe some, I don't know, some smack talk between the two.
Well, I mean, ideally, this is all for fun. I believe a majority of us are in our off season right now, so this was kind of a, hey, let's all get together, do something fun. I would imagine that this will only grow as the communities that we get in contact with over the season will grow as well. So this is to be fun, but I feel like there is some unintentional bragging rights for whoever comes out the winner on this. And this is so weird for me because Nebula Phoenix was a competitor in Rose Cup Season 2. Yes. So to see them representing their parent organization and many of the teams that we see, I think like 5 or 6 of the teams that are in this community crossover cup are actually representing their parent organization. So to see them kind of on a different side, to think, oh, like, yeah, I like those guys, but actually, wait, I don't like those guys, but they're facing our guys. So, oh goodness, that might not be a good thing. So, but nevertheless, it's all meant in good fun. That being said, we are headed to Dorado for our escort map. Now, based on what we saw from Tokyo Black, they had a difficult time on the attack, but were able to hold the line on the defense. Now, there is no objective to capture to start this off, so it's going to be a constant payload moving. That might be an advantage for the side of Tokyo Black if they can pull it off. What do you see coming out here, Comet?
This is the kind of defensive comp that you really hate to see in ranked games. When you see a Symmetra on Dorado in this choke point right here where the payload has to go through, they're going to drop here fairly shortly. I think they're just building ult charge. But as soon as they drop and they set up those Symmetra turrets, beware Tokyo Black. They need to be very, very careful getting through that choke point or find a different way to go around it to avoid those turrets altogether because the slow, the damage,
there they
all
go.
of that. Very, very
scary. Spike Mecha already getting hooked back, has to pull their way back. Gonna be secured as Nyakobi gets the dynamite kill on the rope edge. Fox able to pick off Nyakobi. That's gonna be huge. It's still a 5v5 fight on the objective as the res comes in from Captain, bringing Nyakobi back into the action. Nyakobi getting picked off after the res by Fox, anticipating the res coming in. So it's now a 6v5 fight on the objective. 6v4 as Relink ends up taking Nessington out of the fight. Fox following up onto Wyverblade right there. Spike Mecha trying to hold on as long as possible as the turrets go down. Supplied by Wyverblade right there. Spike Mecha getting supported by both supports right now. Just trying to hold on as much as an Orisa can, but that whole hog is going to push them right into death's door. As Nyakobi coming back in as the Widow takes down the Immortality field. But I don't think that's going to be enough to stop a Wyverblade, though. Going to come in, try to prevent this. Nano going in on Wyverblade, looking to do some damage as they take down Blasta. Nessington following up on the punch from onto Relink right there. And this may be a hold of the objective.
Captain's chasing the Widow.
Oh, man. This is ridiculous right here. Captain
another one.
Oh, man. Captain on the Mercy chasing down Fox. How dare you take out someone on res?
In
Oh,
ranked,
goodness.
we flame the Mercy there. In these games, we love
Props.
it. We love
Props.
it. Yes.
We give the claps, all of the claps right there.
But you saw both of the DPS went down from the defense, and it would still look like a tough push for offense there. And that's the turrets doing work.
But this may not be
coming in on the
tough
back
now
line.
as the Nano Blade coming out for Gropenji. We saw this work really well before. Doesn't seem to get many picks, though. Will end up taking down Sweaty Brawls afterwards, as well as Captain, as the two tanks go down in the meantime. Gropenji able to get the punch kill onto Nyakobi as Fox picks off Wyverblade. That is going to be essentially a team kill right there and an objective capture. 4 minutes on the clock for the side of Tokyo Black as they move their way into objective number 2. And it seems like Nebula Phoenix is going to swap over to a dive composition.
Right, they're looking to hold high ground here. On offense there, that Nano Blade, even though it wasn't really flashy, didn't get a lot of picks, it did a lot of work in terms of disjoining their defense and doing a lot of damage on those tanks. And with some cooperation from the offense, they were able to take him down pretty quick, and that's not what you want to see when you're running Orisa Hog. Now that they've reset on dive, they're going to need to claim this high ground away from the offense, but Fox and Richidu are doing a wonderful job at stopping them from doing what they want to do. So now the dive is on the low ground, kind of unsure about where they're supposed to be going. Oh, and we got a collapse on Fox.
The Wyverblade and Nessington gonna collapse onto Fox right there. As Blasta follows up onto Wyverblade in return. Nyakobi able to get the pick onto Richidu, claiming the high ground right there. It looks like Gropenji is looking to go in, as well as the nanoed Winston, aka Spike Mecha, looking to do some damage. The whole hog ends up coming out for Relink as Nessington takes them out of the fight using that combination of rockets and the defense matrix. Spike Mecha takes down Blasta as Fox picks off Nyakobi again. It seems like after the half, Fox is really honed in on those spidey senses, if you will.
He's completely brought it this game. This is a totally different Fox than the games that we've been playing in the past. I'm actually not surprised to see a dive swap here. Orisa Hog notoriously very tough on a very high ground dominant map. A dive going in with a huge anti.
Oh, but the Primal gonna come out from Spike Mecha as Wyverblade takes down Richidu in the backline. Nyakobi picking off Gropenji and Blasta for the double kill right there. As we see the Dynamac come in for Relink, they're gonna end up getting taken out of the fight by Wyverblade as well. Fox continuing the oof battle between themselves and Nyakobi. Gonna go ahead and take them out once again, but after that, fight's already done.
Now, while it was a good idea to get on the anti-targets for Nebula Phoenix, they really had to be careful with that push because the only people they were anti were the tanks, and the tanks were completely ready for that dive. And on dive, you hardly have the damage to kill a tank player. So they got to be careful looking forward. They got to look and find these Ana, find the Widow, and they need to get them in their sights, and lock them down, and stop them from doing what they want to do.
Well, right now they're just having a really difficult time altogether. Wyverblade
looks like
in the
they're backing
back
up for the
just doing a whole lot of something back there.
That's
but
a big
Fox
pick
gonna
here.
get the pick onto Wyverblade to start things off. Blasta ends up getting the anti-nade from Sweaty Brawls as Spike Mecha gets taken down by Relink. No bubble as the Diva Bomb goes in. Doesn't get much of anything, but pushes the team back. Nyakobi finally able to get the pick onto Fox as Nessington follows up on Gropenji right now. The dive is on Nyakobi as Blasta ends up taking them out with the help of Relink. And Wyverblade back in the fight right now as the Nano comes down onto Blasta, looking to do some damage against Spike Mecha as there are really no heals in the objective. Diva Bomb goes in, but the shield protects for the side of Tokyo Black. Gropenji looking to try to do some damage, but is going to have to back out. The only one left on the objective is Richidu, but it looks to be continually booped and punched back to spawn for their team. Fox ends up getting the pick onto Nyakobi, but Spike Mecha returning the favor, takes them out of the fight as well. 10 seconds remaining on the clock, and with not a full team on either side, really having to decide how they're going to come in. Fox swapping over to the Tracer as Nyakobi almost coming up on sights, going to be able to get back into the fight. Here comes the Blade out from Gropenji, ends up getting the dash kill onto Nessington to start things off, but Spike Mecha follows up on Richidu. Sweaty Brawls also falling to Gropenji as Spike Mecha takes down Tweakin. It is a 4v4 fight on the objective right now as overtime ticking away, looking for that second point advantage. Blasta taking down Nyakobi as Gropenji Grompenji follows up on Captain Diva Bomb coming in for Relink, but is not going to get much of anything as the Primal Rage gets popped by Spike Mecha, trying to push them off the objective as quickly as possible. Ends up getting the boop kill onto Blaster as Grompenji following up onto Wyverblade. Spike Mecha looping around the point right now, just trying to get healed up and stay near the objective as Grompenji taking down Captain in the backline right there. Fox gets the pulse bomb onto Sweaty Brawls. This may be it for them to push into objective number 2 as Wyverblade gets the punch onto Fox. Grompenji follows up on Nessington. Is 1 for 1 and 1 for 1 on either side right now as Wyverblade getting the double in the backline on Relink and Richadu as Blaster follows up onto Spike Mecha coming back in as the Hammond. The overtime continuing to tick away. Another blade coming in from Grompenji, ends up taking down Captain, and right now the Nano coming in on Wyverblade, looking to try to get that Hammond off point. 2 meters left on the objective, trying to push it in that final
Huge
little bit, but
anti.
Nessington ends up coming in on Grompenji. That huge anti coming in, that's not enough. That second point hold again. Woo!
More fights like that, and Captain won't be speaking for much
Oh,
longer.
are you kidding? You obviously didn't watch C2 at all.
Wow, so that's just, I always tell my team that at the end of those points, whenever the distance between the defenders and the distance between the offenders or the offense is closing in, when the distance between both teams is closing in for the reinforcements, you need to be 100% focused. The team needs to be 100% focused on the target calling. And what happened there, at least for a little bit, at the very beginning of that fight, the monkey got nanoed and was very confused about who he should be targeting. He was turning around constantly, and what that did is it allowed the primal from Blasted to come back and be able to come back and contest the point for a long time. And eventually, you know, domino after domino after domino led to the outcome that we saw. But one of the biggest things is just that at the beginning is if that focus fire had gone down, if they were able to get a more clean team wipe and better focus fire, we might not have seen the reinforcements or at least the contests last that long that we did see. But props again to the defense for holding that. That was amazing.
Yeah, Nebula Phoenix, that was... I have to give props especially to Wyverblade. I was surprised that as a Doomfist was able to hold on so long, got 2 nanos during the entire
It's the
time
shields.
of
It's the shields.
yeah, the shields in that nano, they were just able to continue to hold on to that objective, and despite as many as Grompenji kept continuing to pick off, just was not able to do so. We see the boop coming in already from Wyverblade, gets both tanks onto the low ground. Naya Kobe coming in as the Genji this time around, looking to get some picks, but the anti-nade ends up coming in on them as Relink ends up getting the pick and D-Mech onto Nessington. Sweaty Brawls follows up on Grompenji as the hook comes in onto Wyverblade, taking them out. Richadu gets the boop onto the antied Naya Kobe. Blastek gonna go ahead and drop down, take down Sweaty Brawls, and the only one left is Captain, not able to fly away, ends up getting taken down.
Weber got an
by the
amazing,
Fox.
he got an amazing boop on the main tanks of Tokyo Black there, and the team just wasn't ready there. They weren't ready for the dive. They could have all of a sudden collapsed on high ground, gotten the Ana as well as the Reaper that were completely unprotected, but they just weren't ready for it. And that just goes to some, I guess, a little bit of team lack of communication. They maybe weren't ready for the boop there.
All right, now we see Naya Kobe and Grompenji going at it on the sidelines as they retreat to their respective sides. The anti-nade comes in, trying to take down Spike Mecha, but is going to be ineffective. Wyverblade going into the backline, looking to do damage as the High Noon comes out from Fox, ends up taking down Wyverblade, but the anti-nade before ends up taking down Grompenji. Nessington following up on Relink right there, supercharged and taking a nap. Right now as Naya Kobe follows up on Fox. The blade coming out from Naya Kobe, taking down Twerkin as the Shatter follows up on Richadu, and that is going to push back the offender or the defenders right now as Nebula Phoenix goes ahead and gets objective number 1, 4 minutes 45 seconds to get to the final resting place, just shy of objective number 2.
Oh my goodness. On offense, Sweaty Brawls did so much healing there. I'm going to have to give him props there because he was very, very important in keeping Spike Mecha as well as Nessington up. Nessington got pulled, I think, twice by the Hog there. Didn't get picked either time because of the Sweaty Brawls giving him that crazy amount of healing output that Ana can afford. So really, really clutch play coming in from Sweaty Brawls there on that offense. I think it might have been the turning point for that offense.
All right, well, here comes down Gropenji looking to do some damage, really trying to earn up that Blossom as much as possible. Ends up getting punched back by Wiverblade as Fox, Relink, and Gropenji end up getting picks all on their own. Relink following up on Sweaty Brawls as Gropenji takes down Captain.
I wonder if we're going to see a swap to dive here. Nothing yet, but I'm using my Oracle powers. I feel like I could see it coming here soon.
Nope, your Oracle powers must be a little bit off.
Well, look at defense. They have 5 ults available, 6 ults almost available. Still on defense, hardly pressured at all.
I agree, and here comes the Bongos to start things off as Blasta looking to do some damage with the rest of the team. Relink takes down Wiverblade, but Spike Mecha takes down the Bongos as the Beat Drop and a Whole Hog come in, are going to push back and just essentially waste those ultimates, not getting much of anything. Relink ends up taking down Naya Kobe, and the rest of the team is going to go ahead and push back to spawn. High Noon coming out for Fox. Again, gets a whole lot of shield, not much of anything else, as 3 minutes now on the clock. I have to say, I feel like that was a conservative push for the side of Nebula Phoenix, because now they're coming in fully armed with ultimate.
It most definitely was. That's what we in the business call a dry push there. Great awareness by Captain to speed his team out as soon as they forced a bunch of ults.
Woo! Graviton comes out, but so does the Blossom. Takes down both of the healers as Fox follows up on Naya Kobe. Nano coming out onto Relink, looking to get some damage in. Takes down Wiverblade as Gropenji follows up onto Nessington. That's essentially a team kill and a reset for the side of Nebula Phoenix. 2 minutes 25 seconds on the clock, but they still have quite a few ultimates in the pocket to push in on.
I was just about to refer to that. Just even though it looked like they lost that fight fairly convincingly, the other team forced basically all of their ults out.
Shatter goes into the backline along with the Nano Blade coming out from Naya Kobe. Triple, quadruple kill. Wiverblade getting the punch on Blasta, and team kill will ring loud and proud for Nebula Phoenix as they move in to Objective 2 with 2 minutes on the clock.
You really hate to not have Lucio ult there. That would have been so important in holding that win condition, but offense, Nebula Phoenix doing an amazing job of forcing it out in an earlier fight.
All right, well, it looks like we've seen them swap over to a dive-ish composition as the Bongos gets popped by Blasta, Fox, and Relink, following up on Nyakobi and Wiverblade as Spike Mecha ends up getting fell by Gropenji. 1 minute 30 seconds on the clock right now, and it looks like, again, just shy of that final objective point. We're going to go ahead and see Nebula Phoenix pull out, and I gotta say, without knowing what's going on in the first match, not seeing what's going on in the first match, are we going to a map 5?
Oh my
we're going to a map 5 here?
I don't think so, but I think if Nyakobi goes Widow here, with all the space afforded and all of this high ground that he could be using around the point, I think it could be enough to change the tide, but he's sticking on the Genji, the other team, and they swapped to Orisa Hog, so I'm really concerned about maybe they've kind of destroyed the focus of their team comp. They have dive DPS and they have slow push tanks. Are they going to make it work?
I think it was more so the... Oh! Here comes the Blossom! Ends up booping to the side as Blasta takes down Nyakobi. Fox using the High Noon to follow up on Wiverblade. 30 seconds on the clock right now. That's going to be another push shut down for the side of Nebula Phoenix.
This is one of those moments where you might look back on it, you might be kicking yourself. Did we make the right decision here? It's all about split second decisions, so they gotta be smart.
Whoa!
And that is an accidental nano.
Yeah, I don't think that was a good use of the nano right there. Wiverblade gets hooked, but punches out of it as they go in. I think the Nano Blade's coming down. Here it goes! Nyakobi going into the backline, gets antied and stunned, but it's not out of the fight just yet. Gropenji following up on Wiverblade as the payload pushing into its final destination. Overtime ticking away. Richadu follows up on Sway Brawls as Nyakobi takes down Tweakin in the backline. It is a 4v5 fight on the objective as the beat drop comes in from Captain Fox following up onto Nyakobi as we see Gropenji working on Spike Mecha. The stun comes in from Fox, ends up taking down Nessington. High Noon coming out once again. We're going to a map 5, folks! Tokyo Black takes away the victory once again on Dorado, making it 2-2 in the series.
And I just mentioned on the fight before that one, that if you have the defensive ult for the Nano Blade, if you have the Lucio ult available, it's much harder for them to get value out of it. They didn't have it here, so they got completely team wiped. But in that last fight, they did have it. They were able to get it off. The Nano, the Focus Fire, everybody was on that Genji, and the Genji didn't get anything out of it. That's 2 entire ults, their entire ult economy at the time. Wasted, essentially, just to get the Lucio barrier out.
Oh boy. So that means we're headed to a control map 5. And I'm not for certain what, I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, we're headed to Oasis. Thank you, producer Nee. Oasis is going to be our final map of the evening.
Might I say though, this has been an amazing series so far.
Absolutely.
It's been so back and forth.
This has been an incredible back and forth between these two teams, which we were a little surprised at the beginning based on how Nebula Phoenix was playing, but when Tokyo Black brought it back on the second map, that really showed how close an SR these two teams are running. And based on what we've seen so far, Oasis really looks like it's going to be Nebula Phoenix's strong point. It seems like Tokyo Black just seems to really favor those escort hybrid maps where Nebula Phoenix is all about the control point.
Jack, with that being said, who do you think on Tokyo Black needs to go up huge in this game in order for them to squeeze out the victory? Because I really think it's Fox. That's what I really think. Because whenever he was getting shut down by Nyakobi, Nebula Phoenix essentially had free roam on all these King of the Hill points. And also, a note for this, we might see our first GOATS matchup on University if we get there.
Ooh, that may be the case.
I'm pretty sure the only good, when you have no roll lock, the only good comp on that map, that's like the quintessential GOATS map. So we might see some GOATS from both teams, which is a complete, it's a wild card. We haven't seen any showcases of GOATS yet so far in this best of 5.
That is true. So let's go ahead and see what they're going to come out with for this. It's definitely been a wild ride between these two teams. I cannot. It reminds me of so many Rose Cup matches, to be completely honest with you, of that team that really shines at the end of a match. Like that's really what's been coming out for Tokyo Black right here. Whereas Nebula Phoenix really been shining, especially on these control maps. It's going to come down to honestly a combination of communication and focus from Fox and Gropenji going into this fight against Nyakobi and Wiverblade, because it looks like we're seeing the dueling Far Mercies in the sky right now coming out for either side, as we see a dive comp coming out for Nebula Phoenix and the traditional Ryan Zarya coming out for the side of Tokyo Black.
What's notable here is that Ryan and Zarya, Blasta and Kariba are specifically going to have a lot of trouble with this Nebula Phoenix team comp. They can't block all angles at once, so they might get torn apart here. They might have to swap.
Nyakobi
already
picking
the
off
Pharah
Fox early, but Benji ends up taking down Nyakobi in return right there. Richadu able to bring Fox back into the fight thanks to the res, and Captain bringing back Nyakobi. So it's a 6v6 fight currently in favor of Tokyo as Nyakobi takes down Fox. Wiverblade follows up on Gropenji in the sky, and it looks like it's going to swap on over to Nebula Phoenix. The stun comes in as Spike Mecha takes down Tweakin. Relink follows up on Wiverblade, though, just touched the ground just a little bit too much as Nyakobi follows up onto Blasta. Spike Mecha gets the punch kill onto Richadu, and that is going to be a clean of the objective. Nebula Phoenix starting their percentage climb, 5% and climbing.
I think that first engagement was a total love letter to dive comps there. Look at Blasta's ult charge right now. He's only at 70%. That means he was only able to get off 5 or 6 swings, maybe a couple fire strikes during that. And that is not what you want to see after a first fight with Reinhardt. You want to be close to your ult, and he is still a little ways away. He still needs to build about 30% or 25% now. And with Spike Mecha already having his ult, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it this fight.
Woo! Oh, that was a close one. Gropenji takes down Sweaty Brawls on the low ground after the High Noon comes out. High Noon coming out from Nyakobi now ends up getting tweaking as Wiverblade in the backline gets the double onto Relink and Blasta with the barrage. Gropenji follows up on Wiverblade in the sky as Tweakin gets brought back. So does Wiverblade. They're continuing to fight on the objective despite the fact that they've lost half of their team for the side of Tokyo, and it looks like right now it's just the dueling Pharah Mercies in the sky. It looks like Gropenji might have gotten left behind just a little bit, but it looks like they're going to get pulled back in. Here comes the minefield now for Spike Mecha. Ends up getting antinated incredibly low right now as Fox is able to take down Nessington after the DMEC. Relink following up on Wiverblade as Nyakobi takes Relink out. Barrage coming out for Gropenji as Sweaty Brawls takes down Gropenji after Nyakobi falls. The res comes in for either side on Relink and Nyakobi as 80% and climbing now marks for Nebula Phoenix. The fight continuing on as Blasta follows up on Nyakobi. Diva Bomb going into the backline ends up charging more than anything as Fox follows up on Spike Mecha, and the positioning or the point going to swap on over to Tokyo Black as Fox coming out with the Deadeye. Sorry, I'm speaking so fast I can't even know what I'm saying. Doesn't manage to get anything, but does keep them off the objective to secure a fight.
Tokyo Black's actually in a really comfortable spot. In order to get in, Nebula Phoenix has to go through this choke point to get to point, and they have 4 ults available. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Solo grab on Spike Mecha. Now they have a large front line presence that they can actually decide to push here, or maybe try and get some picks. Maybe just hold here. It depends on what they decide to do. But they still have the ults available, but they are really stern on holding this choke point, and that's really playing to their composition's strength. It's going to be hard for this dive comp to get through here if they hold it right.
It definitely will be. 46% and climbing right now for the side of Tokyo Black as we see Nebula Phoenix pushing into the right side of the map, looking to use that boop to the high ground. High Noon! Oh,
on the Valkyrie
wasn't able to drop soon enough. Wiverblade taking down Gropenji as well. It's a 4v6 fight as they move into the objective. Barrage coming down for Wiverblade once again, gets the double, but Fox is able to take down Wiverblade. Nessington giving a kiss with the fist onto Fox as Nyakobi takes down Relink. The res comes in, and that's going to be a security of the objective. 93% and climbing for Nebula Phoenix.
That's just the flexibility of dive right here on this. It's why it's more preferred on this map. They were able to, instead of going through choke, choose a different direction. They had so many options of approaching point that Ryan could only cover one. So they went to the side, went up to the high ground, and were able to execute very freely with little interference from the main tank, as well as the Zarya pick from Tokyo Black. And that's kind of a situation where when you're playing a frontline tank in that situation, you're kind of left saying, what do I do? What should I do? What could I have done?
I know, so many questions.
We're not getting University, but I don't think if this ends right here, we might not get GOATs at all in this entire series, which is, to me, breaking all of the bets that I've made. I owe someone $20, I think.
Oh, goodness. You put money on that? I don't know if I would have put money on that.
I genuinely thought everyone was going to be one of GOATs.
Well, I mean, GOATs is fun to play, but honestly, I don't think in any matchup I've ever had in competitive, unless I'm working specifically with a team, have I ever used GOATs. Going in solo already, 2 picks coming down for Nessington and Sweaty Brawls, taking both DPS out of the picture. The res comes in for Gropenji, who is now coming in as the McCree, looking to see if they can match up against Nyakobi.
Tweakin isolated by himself.
Oh no,
Lying in a corner.
Ends up getting taken down early in the fight as well, as we see the objective get captured and the percentage climb start for Nebula Phoenix.
The tank duo of Spike Mecha and Nessington have done a great job. Every time they get up a player, they always take a little bit more space with the lack of damage that they afford. And so whenever that Tweakin went down on the flank, they pushed up and they forced the main tank.
The Hall hook comes in. Barrage already coming in for Wiver.
Oh my
gets
goodness.
the double onto Tweakin and Blasta, but Gropenji ends up taking down Wiver in return. Nessington following up on Gropenji, not being able to pull out of there soon enough as Wiverblade takes down Richadu, and that is going to be a hold of the objective. 40% and climbing for Nebula Phoenix.
Fox only at 90% on Sumber right now. It's been 2 fights and almost half of the point. This is not what you want to see from a Sumber player on a King of the Hill map. Not at all. They're really depending heavily on Sumber to be the engagement tool for these fights. I think she's going to have it up for this fight. Let's see how they play around it.
All right, well, they're pushing in on the left side. The halt hook comes in on Relink, but the Valkyrie going to keep them in the fight. EMP comes down, only gets Sweaty Brawls and Naya Kobe, as Fox ends up taking down Wyverblade from the sky. The Nano comes in onto Nessington, trying to hold everything together right now as the res comes in for Relink after getting taken down by Spike Mecha. We see Gropenji on the high ground looking to get some kills as Relink takes down Nessington with the help. Oh, High Noon and the Bongos end up getting Sweaty Brawls and Naya Kobe as Spike Mecha falls to Relink. And although the EMP did do some, it was the combination of all the ultimates that ended up going down, which is not what you want to be seeing when trying to take the objective. But it is in Tokyo Black's hands now, 11% and climbing.
Right, this is actually not a very bad spot to be in on when you're on defense on the point and you already have it capped. The Arisol's actually really good at holding things, not so much at taking them.
All right, well, it looks like the Bongo's going to get popped by Spike Mecha along with the High Noon. Coming out from Naya Kobe, ends up getting interrupted, and Spike Mecha is able to take down Blasta. The barrage comes in. Another EMP from Fox made much quicker than the last one as we see the points swap over despite the EMP. 93% and climbing right now for Nebula Phoenix. Will we see Tokyo Black be able to contest? I think not. Oh, I lied! Tweaking, just sitting there as the lone Zen, just like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting.
That is really big. That could be their chance. That could have been their chance.
Yeah, that could have been their chance, but they get cleaned up real quick with the Bongos and the Valkyrie rather coming out. Nebula Phoenix coming away the champions, walking in to the quarterfinals of the Community Crossover Cup. Play of the game for this last match going to Gropenji. Which I have to say, this probably was, yeah, this High Noon right here.
This
ended up coming in clutch for them to take the objective, but unfortunately just was not enough to hold on afterwards.
Very nice. That was very impressive.
The
defense
score just does not do justice, I gotta say. This match was a nail-biter all the way through.
I genuinely think that Nebula Phoenix came in much more prepared for the King of the Hill maps than Tokyo Black did. Tokyo Black looked very comfortable, or somewhat comfortable, on most of the maps, despite the problems that they had in King of the Hill. Looking forward as the team, they probably need to work on that because they went from going even on the payload maps and very closely, I might add, to getting absolutely stomped on a lot of the King of the Hill maps. So that's really concerning to me because half of the cups and the leagues are going to be King of the Hill maps, especially the Game 5s, which are notoriously King of the Hills.
Yeah,
so it's very important that a team be good at it.
Well, maybe that's something that Tokyo now knows they need to focus on going into whatever competitions they're going to be going for. But Nebula Phoenix are going to be moving into the quarterfinals. I believe next week we'll be doing the quarterfinals and semifinals for the Community Crossover Cup. With that being said, be sure to tune in tomorrow night, as we said, Fatso Catso for the Crusaders, ADM Singularity from Andromeda are going to be featured at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Andromeda stream, which should be hosted here on Galaxy Esports, as well as Canis Auroras from Spectrum Canis and Fields Platman from the Rose Cup will be featured at 10 p.m. on the Rose Cup channel. If there's do we have anything else to put out? I don't think so.
Player of the match?
Oh, yes, player of the match. How could I forget that? How could I forget that? That's like the most important part of all this. Well, Comment, I'll go ahead and let you start off since you were the one that remembered.
Okay, so I was looking the whole game at a lot of different things. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to pay attention to exactly what the support is doing since they enable the rest of the team to do a lot of the things that they want to do. I will do shout outs, obviously, to the support line of Nebula Phoenix. But for me, personally, the biggest impact maker in the entire game was either Nessington
or gonna be Kobe. Both of them went absolutely huge. I think overall Nessington was probably a little bit more reliable for the team. Very good awareness, constantly pushing up when they're at player advantage, doing a lot of work that might go unnoticed if you weren't paying attention to it. While Nyakobi, obviously, for all the 4Ks and the amazing headshots and wonderful plays that he did. But Nessington enabled them as well as the healing line.
Nope, I completely agree with that. Of the two that I was gonna go for, either tank or DPS, that was really the two picks I was gonna go for as well. I'm gonna go ahead and give my love to Nyakobi though, because the positioning on that Widow, a majority of the matches that we saw them on Widow was just spectacular, especially when we saw them on Hanamura during that 4v6 fight. We thought that was totally going to go in favor of Tokyo Black. That repositioning that came in along with the distraction from Wiverblade allowed Nyakobi to get some picks into the back line that allowed them to hold on to that objective, ultimately giving them the first point hold on that point, and then ultimately giving them the win that pushed them into the quarterfinals for this. So
right, and I don't think we emphasized at the time just how amazing of a play that was. That was a 4v6 in by definition.
4v6, no tanks.
And that was very impressive. Very impressive.
That was absolutely huge. So go ahead and pop into the chat who y'all want your players of the match to be. We'll go ahead and look at them as things are going on. But with that being said, this is it for here at Galaxy Esports. My name's Captain Jack.
My name's Comet. Again, shout outs to Galaxy Esports and CCC for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to First Night of Neat, our producer this evening. And we'll see y'all next time.